we need to talk about intuition. Welcome to ToK Today. Please freely hit like and subscribe if you intuitively feel it's the right thing to do. Intuition at once seems both the least understood, yet one of the most commonly experienced and powerful forms of knowledge. Intuition seems to sit somewhere between a form of knowledge and an emotional response. Many of the most important decisions that we make in life, romantic partners, jobs, type of ice cream, are based on intuition. And yet intuition's role in decision making is very little understood. At an experiential level, intuition feels as if it does not stand up to reason-based forms of analysis. A ToK that includes intuition needs to consider whether emotions are a form of knowledge. A ToK that doesn't include intuition or any other emotion neglects some of the most important influences on what we know and why we know it. So we need to talk about intuition as a form of knowledge in ToK. So let's start with AOK Natural Sciences and Voltz and Sanders' 2009 research, in which they define intuition as based on automatic processes that rely on knowledge structures acquired through different kinds of learning. Now, this definition further posits that intuitions operate at least partially without a person's awareness, but nevertheless, they could result in feelings, signals, or interpretations. In short, intuition is a non-conscious process exerting influence on behaviour by drawing on implicitly acquired knowledge that signals higher processing areas in the conscious brain. Higher processing in the conscious brain. Now, this takes us to AOK Human Sciences, namely neuropsychology. Or is that AOK Natural Sciences? Or is it that we've made up this break between human and natural sciences and it doesn't actually exist? That's another video. Let's just go to neuropsychology. To understand intuition as more than a near inexplicable meta-reality, we could look to cognitive processing in the memory and attention systems. Intuition could be understood as a process of attaching implicit memories to conscious and subconscious memory systems. Welcome to ToK Today. Please freely hit like and subscribe if you intuitively feel it's the right thing to do. Implicit memories involves distinct neural substrates and mechanisms. Essentially, the research shows that stimuli encoded and stored whilst attention is diverted elsewhere is remembered more strongly than stimuli which is directly encoded through volition. So this research indicates that intuition is most probably a product of learned behaviour rather than any sort of innate sixth sense or a spidey sense. In ToK terms, this means that intuitive knowledge is formed indirectly without the proactive volition of the knower, and we'll call this the indirect learning hypothesis. The indirect learning hypothesis of intuition brings forth a range of interesting knowledge questions about physical sensory perception, such as, is evolved niche development the cause or consequence of the development of sense perception? And why did visual perception become the primary human sense? And have we lost perceptual senses beyond those currently known? Is the residual data that's lost from declining senses now labelled as intuition? And what's this got to do with ToK? And why is it important? Well, if intuition is based on neurological processes of perception and learning, albeit indirect learning, then we should be able to improve decision-making, which is apparently based on intuition. And this is exactly what researchers Wan et al. In 2002 demonstrated with the training of novices in the game of shogi, or Japanese chess. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. Now, they trained novices for 15 weeks, whilst also monitoring neural activation through fMRI. Wan et al. Took next move knowledge as being indicative of the knowledge that we usually label as intuitive knowledge. So they compared professional players with the amateurs or the novices. And they found that the professionals had a significantly higher level of stimulation in an area of the brain called the caudate nucleus, an area in the dorsal of the basal ganglia. Now, the role of the caudate nucleus in voluntary motor functioning has long been known, and we're now beginning to understand that it also has a role in spatial mnemonics, which is similar in aspect to muscle memory. It's clear that indirect learning is involved in muscle memory and other sensory-based memory systems. As such, the neurological basis for intuition has become established. In ToK terms, this means that intuitive knowledge forms perception, and more pertinently, intuitive knowledge forms perspective. And these frameworks of knowledge are acquired socially, and they're constructed through communities of knowers. However, they've got an empirical biological base, and this draws us into questioning the free will versus determinism debate. To what extent are we free to acquire or produce knowledge independently through volition? And to what extent is the acquisition and production of knowledge bound by external determinants such as biological conditioning? And this is even more acute given that the learning that leads to intuition is involuntary and indirect, i.e. we don't choose to do it, we don't know we're doing it, and we've got little control over it. So the claim that intuition has a neurological basis should be of interest to ToK students, because firstly it gives an empirical basis for knowledge without evidence. Secondly, it starts to bring scientific evidence to the constraints on our knowledge world. It leads us into the idea that our knowledge frameworks are to a degree the product of limited boundaries of our biology. As such, the claim leads to the possibility of currently unspecified areas of knowledge, those that should possibly declined or we've lost during human evolution. So, in conclusion, I come back to the power of intuition. It's a form of knowledge that we rely upon to validate other forms of knowledge and sometimes to make important decisions. We think it doesn't have that has no evidential basis, but neuroscience is increasingly showing us that intuition is actually a learned set of skills and knowledge. As such, it should be possible for us to teach people to be more intuitive. Intuition starts to look like a master form of knowledge, and this would lead to better and faster decision making. As such, knowledge of intuition becomes both an individual and a social good, and we're all about the good in ToK. Now, if you're preparing your ToK exhibition or deciding which ToK exhibition prompt to use, be sure to check out our range of ToK exhibition ebooks called ToK Exhibition Prompts Explained. And they give you a step-by-step way of developing knowledge arguments to get those high marks for every ToK exhibition prompt. And they give you examples of objects that you could use and so on and so on. Now you can pick up the book which explains all of the prompts, or there are books that just explain a range of 5 of the prompts, and there are even books which explain just an individual prompt, the most popular one. Just pick up whichever one best suits your needs for your ToK exhibition. If you found this video useful or interesting, or you're just intuitively feeling generous, I would love a like or a subscribe. And if you want more content like this, please let me know in the comments section below. My friends, stay ToKtastic. Bye.